Welcome to Drive the Daf, clear, structured explanation of the daily Daf in 20 minutes. You can even follow in the car.
Taanis Daf Lamed Aleph. We begin with the last few lines of Daf Lamed. This is the last Daf in Masechtas Taanis. Takes us to the end of the Masechta, and it discusses the day of Tu B'Av. What happened on Tu B'Av? And what is the simcha of Tu B'Av, and what is the procedure? What does it commemorate? Why is it a Yom Tov? And what is the procedure? What used to happen in the days of Bayis Rishon on a Tu B'Av? So the Gemara quotes our Mishnah. We had seen there that Rosh Shimon ben Gamliel says that there were no great Yom Tovim for Klal Yisrael as the 15th of Av and Yom Kippur. So the Gemara says Yom Kippur, I understand, it's a great day, it's a day of forgiveness, day of Slicha Mechila, and it's a day that the second set of Luchos were given to Klal Yisrael. But what happened on the 15th of Av? What's so great about that day? So the Gemara offers a number of answers. Rabbi Yehuda says in the name of Shmuel, it's the day that we allowed the Shvatim, the different tribes of Klal Yisrael, to intermarry with each other. Now, what happened was as follows. In the days of Tzalafchad, the Torah says that a woman who inherited land cannot marry somebody from a different shevet, because then that land will move from her shevet to the shevet of her husband. The Gemara says that the Chachamim at some point expounded and said that only applies in that generation. Learn out from Zeh Hadav She'Tziv Hashem Lebenos Tzalafchad that it's only B'dor Zeh, only in this generation does that apply. In other generations, even a woman who inherited land is allowed to marry someone else. So that was a tremendous simcha to Klal Yisrael that helped ease the shidduch crisis of the time. So that's the first thing that happened on Tu B'Av. Next thing that happened on Tu B'Av was that they allowed people to marry women from Shevet Binyamin. Now, Shevet Binyamin had a totally different issue. They had the issue of Pilegesh Begiva, the story about something that happened with a Pilegesh, a concubine, from with the people of Shevet Binyamin. As a result of that incident, a ban was instituted where Klal Yisrael said, we're not allowing our daughters to marry men from Shevet Binyamin at any point, and Binyamin was waning. They were beginning to disappear, and at some point they said, okay, the ban's over. That was also based on a drasha. The pasuk that records the incident where they said, we're not going to allow our daughters to marry Shevet Binyamin, said, Ish mi menu, a man from among us will not allow our daughters to marry Binyamin. So they said, only mi menu, not mi benenu, meaning our children are allowed to marry their daughters, and our grandchildren, our granddaughters are allowed to marry into Shevet Binyamin. When they allowed that, that was a tremendous simcha because they saved Shevet Binyamin from destruction. Okay. Third thing that happened is Rabbi Abraham and Rabbi Yochanan says it was the day that the people in the Midbar stopped to die as a result of the Miraglim. The Gemara describes what had happened after the Miraglim were brought. They had 40 years where everyone went to sleep at night in a grave. They dug a grave, they went to sleep there, and in the morning they said, whoever's still alive, get up. And some people got up and some people didn't. 40 years passed in this manner. And at the end of the 40 years, they said whoever's alive should get up, and everybody got up, no one had died. So they thought, oh, we must have made a mistake, it was the wrong day, we miscalculated. So, meaning this is something that happened not every night, but it happened every Tisha B'Av of every year. So they figured we got the day wrong. So today wasn't really a Tisha B'Av, maybe it was really Ches Av. So they decided to do it again the next night, and the next night, and the next night, until the 15th of Av, when they saw the full moon, they realized this definitely, Tisha B'Av is definitely past. And therefore, they had understood that the 40 years were over, and now they aren't going to die anymore. So that was a tremendous simcha which they made on that day, the 15th of Av. Okay, the fourth thing that happened, the Gemara says, is the day that the guards that were placed on the roads by Yeravam ben Nevat to stop Klal Yisrael from going to the Beis HaMikdash to be Oler Regel, because he had set up his own idols in the north. So on the day that those guards were removed was Tu B'Av, and it was this tremendous simcha. Now that was removed by the last king of Malchus Yisrael, Hoshea ben Elah. He was a Rasha. He did not say everybody should go to Yerushalayim like they're supposed to. He just said whoever wants could go to Yerushalayim, whoever wants could keep traveling to these idols over here. But it was still a simcha, and that's something that happened on Tu B'Av. Now, Rav Masna says the fifth thing, it was the day that the people who were killed in the city of Beitar were allowed to be buried. It was a long time when they were not allowed to be buried. They were Zocha to Kvura on Tu B'Av. And they made a rule in Yavana at that time with the Sanhedrin to say the bracha of Hatov v'Hametiv. Hatov, he's good, and who does good. So the Tov is that those corpses did not decay and didn't smell, and Hametiv is that they actually were Zocha to Kvura, they were buried. Now, the sixth and final thing Rav Yosef says, Rabbah and Rav Yosef say it is the day that they stopped chopping wood to bring to the Mizbeach. And the reason for that, the Gemara says, is that from the 15th of Av, the sun begins losing strength. And if it begins losing strength, it doesn't properly dry out the wood. And if the wood's not properly dried, it'll get wormy. And wormy wood is puzzle for the Mizbeach. Therefore, from the 15th of Av and on, they stopped chopping wood, and therefore they went to learn. They went to learn, and that was a tremendous simcha. It was called the Day of the Broken Axe. Everybody went to learn. The Gemara records, anybody who didn't go learn, they said, meaning anybody who did not increase his learning schedule, they said, Yeh Asaf. What is Yeh Asaf? The Gemara says it means that his mother is going to bury him. Okay, now the Gemara goes into the next part of the Mishnah by quoting a Brisa, which describes at length what happened when the girls went out on the 15th of Av to dance in the fields. So we had said that everybody borrows, that each one went to borrow a dress from someone else. So the Gemara says that they borrowed from the rank just below them. So the king's daughter borrowed from the daughter of the Kohen Gadol. She borrowed from the daughter of the Skan Kohen Gadol, the vice Kohen Gadol. The daughter of the Skan Kohen Gadol borrowed from the Meshuach Machama. That's a Kohen who had leadership only for the job of announcing who needs to go back and not join the war. And the daughter of the Meshuach Machama borrowed from the daughter of a regular Kohen. Now, all Yisraelim borrowed from each other without any intention to rank or how rich or poor anyone was, and the idea was that nobody should be embarrassed. Everybody's wearing borrowed clothing, and therefore you're not embarrassed by what you're wearing. Now, says the Gemara, we had seen in the Mishnah that all the clothing needs to be put in the mikvah. The Gemara says even ones that were folded and never worn, everything has to go to the mikvah in order to not embarrass people who are nidos and need to bring their clothing to the mikvah before they give it back to someone else. Now, the Gemara says further that the girls went out into the vineyards and they danced. The Gemara says that they said various things. So those that were first, the Gemara says the purpose of this was that the men came to look for a bride. Anybody who wasn't married went there to look for a bride. And the girls said the following things as they danced. They said, so the beautiful one said, a young man, look for beauty. A woman is supposed to be beautiful. Those that were miyuchasos from very respectable families said, look at the families, because a woman has children, and therefore you want your families to be high quality. And the women who had neither of these qualities said, marry someone l'shem shemayim, because a woman is for Yirah Shemayim is the most important thing. Just make sure that you give us beautiful clothing once you do marry us. As a machlokes, if that was just said tongue-in-cheek as a joke, or if they were saying, don't worry about beauty, just if you give us nice things, the beauty will be there. Now the Gemara concludes the Masechta by quoting Ula Bira, in the name of Rabbi Elazar, who says in the future, Kadosh Baruch Hu will make a big circle of the tzaddikim, and he himself will sit between them in Gan Eden, and each tzaddik will be able to point, as it were, at a Kadosh Baruch Hu with his finger, and his revelation of the vision of being able to receive the divine presence will be so strong, as if he could point his finger and say, there it is, I see it. And that's learned from the pasuk in Yeshayahu. Says, "V'omer b'yei mahu hine alekenu zeh kivinu v'yeshienu zashem kivinu loy nagilu v'nesimcha b'shu asay." We'll say on that day, here, this is Hashem, this is our God, this is the day we hoped for and we prayed for. Hashem has saved us, and we will be joyful and happy in His salvation. Hadron alach meseches Taanis v'hadrach.
Drive the Daf is a project of the Grand Woodlands Shul and is presented by Rabbi Yitzchak Landa. Find us on YouTube or subscribe to daily emails by emailing drivethedaf@gmail.com.